very much looking like the modern, very much looking like the modern blue-red Delver deck, but with better permission and better burn. You know, he's got not even that much better burn, I guess, mostly just better cantrips. He's got Brainstorm and Ponder instead of Serum Visions and Thought Scour, and he has Daze and Force of Will instead of things like Spell Snare and Mana Leak.
On the Lossett side, again, we just watched him the last round, but he is, of course, playing Miracles, as he's been doing all year long. He's already qualified for our Players' Championship. Donegan looking to do the same here. Again, he's virtually got it locked up. Even if Donegan loses this matchup, he'll go down to 12-3 and be able to draw in the next round. So for him, he's actually trying to play spoiler, as you mentioned, and not letting Lossett into the top 8. That's the big deal here.
Yeah. I mean, Dylan would prefer to get a draw or a win at some point, but, you know, in this spot, he's got a good chance to try to knock Lossett out.
And think about it, if Donegan wins this matchup, you know, next round, he can draw, he can concede, what have you, but more importantly is the seeding.
Oh, yeah.
He
wants to go first.
Yeah, and that's a really, really big deal, especially when you need to win your quarterfinals matchup to qualify for the Players' Championship. You want to get every advantage that you can get. So he's going to have to try his hardest to win what, as you mentioned, is a very difficult matchup. Yep,
and then, but so far so good, as plan A, in effect, Joe Lossett taking a mulligan. Dylan hoping that Lossett's mana not come together.
Now, we have seen Joe with various takes on Miracles. He's one of the players who has streamlined this deck, really made it into what it has become today. He does have some changes here with 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus in his main deck, a Dig Through Time as well. We saw him kind of go without those when we were in Columbus for the Open Series event there, but after that, Grand Prix New Jersey and moving forward, he has made some slight changes to the deck. He, of course, has those main deck Pyroblasts, as he's had for some time now, 2 of those. Just 1 Spell Pierce, the creatures, 3 Vendilion Clicks, and just 1 Venser. No Snapcaster Mage this weekend here for Joe in the main deck, so some minor changes, but they definitely do matter in this world of Treasure Cruise. Joe with a Terminus in his hand, among other things. You also see a Forcible there as well.
Not a great 6, but at least he's got mana to cast his spells.
Don't know if he's got a Sensei's Divining Top hiding out there. It looks like the answer is no.
Yeah, so the problem there is with no Sensei's Divining Top, no Brainstorm, his hand was just, what was it? It looked like a Terminus, a Force of Will, and 4 land.
I saw at least a couple.
It looked like 4 land, a Terminus, and a Force of Will. That's super slow and not really capable of bringing anything together. He knows that against Donegan's blue-red Delver deck, if he doesn't have some early interaction, some way to look or some way to, you know, break up a creature, he might take 20 damage in the first 4 turns from creature damage alone.
Well, so that's going to go down to 5, and if you're Donegan, you got to be thrilled about this, because again, game 1 is pretty tough for you.
This is a disciplined mulligan too. A lot of people, when they see a 6-card hand, are just so terrified of a 5-card hand that they'll keep any hand that has lands in it.
We saw Donegan earlier today win with a 5-card hand.
Absolutely.
So it can be done.
Absolutely. Both Standard and Legacy are formats right now where you can take mulligans and have reasonable chances of winning, even if you have to double mulligan.
Joe's taking a long look at this hand, so not sure if he even likes
Triple
this.
mulligan is starting to get into Gabriel Nassif territory.
Yes, sir.
Standard open players, welcome to round number 6. You have 50 minutes, you may begin.
All right, he's going to
keep it.
Donegan's going to start things off with a Volcanic Island into a Delver of Secrets. The set will draw. He has a Flooded Strand.
And he has the 1 land hand, but he does have Brainstorm to help pull it all together.
See a Source of Plowshares over there, Vendilion Click as well. Looks like at least 1 copy of Counterbalance, maybe 2. He's just going to pass the turn back over to Donegan. Trigger, flip it, Force Will, a big reveal. That will be Donegan's draw if Lossett lets him move to his draw step, but we're not quite there yet. Of course, Delver, that trigger happens in the upkeep, so that Force of Will is the top card of Donegan's deck at the moment. It is just revealed.
Yeah, I think he was considering not plowing here in the event that if the Delver did not flip, it might be worth just playing around Daze, waiting a minute. But with the Delver flipping and Force of Will on top, he has to plow now or forever hold his peace.
He's going to fire away. We'll see if it resolves. Daze an option here. Another Force of Will too.
And there is another Force of Will.
Now that Force Will is going to remove a Treasure Cruise. Force Will will be added to the hand. You don't normally see Force of Will countering Source of Plowshares in this matchup. There are more important cards to counter, but given the situation, you can certainly see why Donegan would make this play.
Oh yeah, particularly given that Joe Lossett is at 5 cards. You know that Lossett's going to be real short on action.
Here's a Counterbalance. So Lossett was able to peel land to cast the Counterbalance, and now Donegan has to look at his other Force of Will in hand and say, do I want to use that here?
What's interesting is that if he Force of Wills here, Yep, he chooses not to. If I was gonna say, if he used his Force of Will, he would be back down to neutral on cards.
The Taxian Probe is going to be cast. Donegan's going to take 2.
We're gonna see a blind reveal for counterbalance. The Scalding Tarn. So even though it was 0 mana paid for the Gataxian Probe, counts as a 1-cost spell.
Vendilion Click, Brainstorm, and an additional copy of Counterbalance for the cards that Lossett is working with in hand.
That's a good hand.
That's plenty fine. Scalding Tarn on top. That's a fetch land to go with the Brainstorm.
Oh yeah. And Vendilion Click. This is a good hand. Potentially Vendilion clicking himself to shuffle away his counterbalance or put his counterbalance on the bottom.
There's land number 2, an attack for 3. Lossett's going to go down to 13. Donegan's going to tap 2 mana. He knows the coast is clear here for Young Pyromancer, so he will cast that. Lossett will draw that copy of Scalding Tarn. See if maybe he wants to Brainstorm first, how he wants to go about doing business here. He'll start by playing the Tarn. Now we'll see how he wants to move forward here. All it takes is 1 Terminus here from Lossett to really get him back into this game, too.
Oh, yeah. Now, the interesting thing is that even if he assembles Sensei's Divine Top Counterbalance, the Young Pyromancer continues to get triggers. He can just power through, let his spells get countered, but at least they're all 1/1s for however much. Lossett really crutching on Terminus for removal. He's got 4 Terminus in his deck, but not a lot of other removal besides that. He has 1 more Plow. 2 Pyroblasts function as removal for the Delver, but that Young Pyromancer could get out of hand very quickly if Lossett cannot find a Terminus.
Yeah, it's strange to see only 2 copies of Swords of Plowshares in a deck like this. I think you would oftentimes expect 4, and you know, previously Joe did have 4 of that card for a little while, but you got to make room for those 2 copies of Relic Progenitus somewhere.
Yeah, and the 2 Pyroblast main deck.
Yep.
This is a very teched out metagame Miracle deck, but Lossett knows his miracles, and he, from the looks of it, has been right on the money for this weekend.
3 mana, it's going to be an upkeep copy of Vendilion Click. We'll see if this does resolve. And if it does, who it'll be targeting. It does resolve, it'll be targeting Lossett. Counterbalance to the bottom. Card coming. Didn't get a look at it. But that means the top card of his deck right now is unknown to everybody. So Donegan's going to cast a Forked Bolt.
Interesting. What do you think about this Vendilion Click early?
I think a Brainstorm on that Forked Bolt is pretty nice.
That was huge.
I think I'm okay with the Vendilion Click there on the upkeep.
That was huge, because this Vendilion Click can potentially trade with either the Pyromancer or the Delver.
Now you can see Donegan's hand. He has a Force of Will and I believe another blue card there, so he could have just Force of Willed that, but I think he's saving Force for Terminus.
Yeah, and part of it is that if he Force of Wills there, his Forked Bolt is never going to do anything. Yeah. But if he Forked Bolts there, the only way he gets punished is if there's a blind reveal.
He was punished, and now Lossett has to decide how he wants to block. He looks like he's going to trade with the Pyromancer instead of the Delver's Secrets. Maybe a little surprising there?
I think that's okay. I think that in this spot, he just wants things to not slip out of control, because he doesn't want to need Terminus. He wants to have Plow and Pyroblast still be good draws.
Brainstorm here, 3 cards coming, a Mountain among them. There's also a Sensei's Divine Top. Actually looks like 2 copies of them there.
Even a Vendilion Click or a Venser can potentially be a removal spell, whereas if that Pyromancer was sitting in play, it's Terminus or bust.
How Lossett decides to put the cards back here is very, very interesting. It looks like he's going to put 2 Brainstorms back. He's done resolving that Brainstorm. He's got a land to play in the Mountain. He's going to lead with the top right now before playing a land. See if Donegan maybe has.
And he's hoping to draw out the Force of Will here. Very smart play. I love the fact that he didn't play his other Mountain yet either. This is just smart play by Joe Lossett.
And when you're playing against Miracles and they're casting a Sensei's Divine Top, you oftentimes want to counter. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Force of Will removing another blue card will take care of that. And
now he can play his Mountain and his top, which would let him play around Daze.
There's Mountain.
So, yep, exactly.
I like the way he sequenced this a lot.
Absolutely.
This is a really good turn.
Very smart.
And when you're on a mulligan at 5, you have to do everything you can to get yourself back into the game.
This is just very well played by Joe Lossett under very, very tough conditions.
He's down to 5 now. He's going to spit his top in a turn. We know the top 2 cards are Brainstorm. What's the third one? It's another Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, we know what he's drawn. He'll cast a Brainstorm. Always fun to watch this happen, because what this allows you to do is you draw 3 cards, you put 2 back, and then when you spin the top, the 3rd card down is a mystery. So he is slowly but surely getting deeper into his deck. And he's got another Brainstorm, so that he'll do the exact same thing again.
It's so smart too. The brainstorming on your own turn means that it doesn't count as your draw for the turn, so that if you find the Terminus, you can still do it on your opponent's turn.
And now there's no, so he's using Brainstorm to clear the top of his deck. Now 2 cards are going to go back yet again.
Some of the most minimal value brainstorms I have ever seen in all of my years.
There's a land, it's a Caracas. Now he'll spin. No Terminus there yet for Joe.
It's a tough spot. At least he's got ones locked out.
You got to admire that he's giving himself every opportunity to try to find a Terminus here.
Yeah, and he drew out Dylan's Force of Will with that Sensei's Divining Top play, which means that if he finds a Terminus, he's in pretty good shape.
Lightning Bolt's countered by the counterbalance. Donegan going to very quickly sacrifice the Misty Rainforest, search up a land. There's a Volcanic Island. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's working his way towards a Treasure Cruise for this turn.
Yeah, the only thing that's tough about the Treasure Cruise is that there are very, very few cards in Donegan's deck that cost anything besides 1. He has Young Pyromancer, more Treasure Cruises, Force of Will, and Daze. Literally every other card cost 1. Every other spell.
There's the Cruise. It's going to resolve. But that may not be that big of a deal. What matters right now are the creatures that are on the table here for Lossett as he's down to 1. Joe going to draw. He already knows what's coming. It's the Sensei's Divine Top. He'll spin. Take a look at the top 3.
Wow.
Terminus is one of them.
Wow. Joe Lossett, ladies and gentlemen.
He'll play a top.
Absolutely.
He'll hope to resolve a top. Donegan casting a Brainstorm.
Oh, this is so smart.
Yep.
This is so smart.
Picking your spots against Miracles is always very difficult.
Wow, this is so smart. If Lossett tries to do any top shenanigans, it's going to eat up a lot of his mana.
And he wants to make sure that he can cast a Terminus around something like Spell Piercer or Daze.
Yes. Daze in particular, as it's one of the few spells Dylan has that he can't lock out with ones.
Take a look at these. So now he's going to put his cards back in a different way.
This is giving Dylan the opportunity to Daze. I wonder if you just suck it up, leave the Terminus on top.
Let the Brainstorm resolve.
Let the Brainstorm resolve, because most of the cards you could be drawing with Brainstorm, he can't cast anyway. It's a gamble.
He's not sure. You see, the cards there are a land, a Terminus, and the Sensei's Divine Top. So now he's going to draw a card. Brainstorm response. Okay. That one's going to resolve. So 2 cards are going to go back here for Donegan in just a moment. Draw, put on top, reveal, counter your Brainstorm. Now this top will resolve. Now he'll play a land, still able to play around Daze. Okay. Spin now. You have to imagine Terminus will be the top card, and there it is. Terminus and 2 Sensei's Divine Tops are there. He'll pass the turn back. On the upkeep, draw a card. Terminus.
Wow, Joe Lossett at 1 life. Does he have it stabilized?
Donegan gonna draw. 1 mana spells are out of the question here. He has to pass the turn back. Lossett will draw the Sensei's Divining Top, redeploy. Yes, pass. He knows 2 of the top cards of his deck. Donegan gonna sacrifice Strand, go down to 14.
What incredible work by Joe Lossett. Wow.
So you've got Donegan's deck list in front of you. Ones are out of the equation.
Yeah,
now.
it's literally, so he's got Young Pyromancer, Daze, Treasure Cruise, and Force of Will are the only spells he can cast.
And Lossett's got plenty of mana to spin around top and reset things as he needs to.
And Treasure Cruise mostly just is air. Force of Will doesn't get him out of this. Daze, he's got plenty of mana to pay. It's basically just Young Pyromancer at this point, and Treasure Cruise finding Young Pyromancer.
Lossett's 3 cards now. Again, 2 Sensei's Divine Top and a Spell Pierce are the cards that he's looking at as he spins his top. Don't forget, folks, this is a mulligan to 5 here from Lossett, immediately under the gun from a Delver of Secrets at the beginning of the game. And the tough thing here for Joe is that, you know, one of the things that Miracles takes advantage of is the fact that they can fetch and shuffle and clean the top cards of their deck. Well, he's at 1, so that's out of the question now.
Yep. It's been shut down. I mean, in theory, he could potentially use his one other plow, if he ever finds it, his one other plow on one of his few creatures to gain a little bit of life to start fetching again. But for the most part, he's just sitting, hanging out. Dylan needs to draw Young Pyromancer. If he does, it's basically just game over for Lossett. But it's going to take, basically nothing else Dylan can do will get him there. Lossett, meanwhile, racing to try to find a 2 on top of his deck, or potentially something that can further his game plan, like a Jace or a Entreat the Angels. A Terminus would be fine, just to buy some time against a Pyromancer.
Lossett spinning now, Spell Pierce top, and a Flooded Strand. His draw for last turn was a copy of Venser. However, not convinced he has enough mana to be able to start actually casting Venser. He does have Venser plus Karakas available to him. But does he want to tap 4 mana at any point here and only have 2 mana available? That would surprise me.
Now, he could Venser his own top.
Yep.
In response to the activated ability. If he's confident there aren't too many lightning bolts coming his way, that is a card drawing engine, because the Sensei's Divining Top draw trigger would still be on the stack. Venser would bounce it back to his hand, and he'd still get to draw a card. Then Karakas would bounce Venser back to his hand, meaning that he basically can build a Whispers of the Muse.
Joe gonna spin the top here and Entreat the Angels.
Entreat the Angels is big.
Yeah.
Entreat the Angels means that Lossett can actually put this game away in 1 turn if he pulls the trigger.
Lossett was considering playing his Venser. He might be considering it yet again. Now this is very, very risky to tap this low, but you don't have to be scared of too much stuff. Lightning Bolt's the big one. There's a Venser, and I like this because this isn't the card that actually matters.
Yeah, this is only a bluff.
Yep. Entreat's the card that matters.
Wow, with that many bolts.
So Venser just bounces a land.
How many cards in Dylan's hand? It's got to be like 7.
Yeah, I think he's got exactly 7 now. Yep. And at least 1 lightning bolt, potentially 2. There's also a ponder over there, but Seth's just going to pass the turn back after that attack for 2. Donegan is down to 12. This is a Monastery Swift Spear.
It's interesting not playing the Volcanic Island first.
Lossett would like to draw a card with Sensei's Divining Top. Any responses to be had?
Yeah, he knows too.
Draw, Entreat, Miracle Trigger.
How many? 2 or 3?
I was leaning towards 1. I'm kind of a coward, though. Maybe 2. He's even a little unsure.
Yep.
I mean, if 3 works, you clear the game out the next turn.
It's going to be tight. Yeah, I think he's going to go for it.
He's going to got 3 angels here.
Who's that on the angel token?
That's just a normal angel from our IQ series. No one special yet. We haven't had an angel token made yet.
Call that Tom Ross after this one. He's our angel.
3 angel tokens are in. Lossett's going to untap. Will he get to draw that top that's on top of his deck yet?
What a miraculous victory by Joe Lossett if he pulls this off.
He's going to spin his top on his upkeep. Wants to make sure he knows exactly what he's drawing. I have a feeling that he'd actually prefer that he doesn't draw top this turn. So you make sure that that's just on top of his deck at all times, because all he has to worry about are 1-mana spells. So he's going to draw a card. It's copy of Flooded Strand. I think what we might see him do is actually cast the top that's in his hand, or he might just attack first. Yep. No, not just yet. Here they come. Lightning bolt. Trigger counterbalance. I imagine. Donegan making him play it out. Hoping Lossett makes some sort of mistake here. Relic Progenitus among the cards as well. Lossett just going to make sure. Counter that and win the game. Joe Lossett wins game number 1 here over Dylan Donegan. Miracles up a game of a Blue-Red Delver. Joe can't believe it, and Dylan's trying to figure out what went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the display of miracles in that match, that was like watching the LSV Kibler GIF with Bonfire.
Sure.
From the World Cup in 2013.
That's a heck of a win.
Oh yeah, that was so big by Joe Lossett, playing so well, including I particularly liked his mannerisms. I mean, obviously, technically, like, he played the right cards in the right order that turn with the double Sensei's Divining Top, but it wasn't just the fact that he sequenced his cards that way. He did such a good job of not tipping his hand, of presenting like, this Sensei's Divining Top is what's going on, you should counter this, and then having in reserve land top with the ability to use it. Very, very smart play. He also gave himself all the best chances to look, and with the and you know, obviously he had to get a little bit lucky with the blind reveal on the counterbalance.
Yeah.
But he put himself in a position to be able to.
If you don't love that, you don't love Magic. As we turn our attention to the sideboards, we will start with Donegan's. He's got access to 4 copies of Cabal Therapy, 2 Graph Digger's Cage, 2 Pyroblast, 2 Sulfuric Vortex, an Electrickery, a Dismember, a Surgical Extraction, a Hydroblast, and a Smash Smithereens. What do we like here as far as his options are concerned?
Well, without question, Pyroblast and Sulfuric Vortex. That's what's going on. Pyroblast obviously counters Force of Will, Counterbalance, whatever. But Sulfuric Vortex, hard to counter with a Counterbalance top, and if he sticks it, he often will just win anyway. Plus, it shuts down the Baneslayer Angel backup plan. On the other side, I think that Joe Lossett, who has access to 2 Pyroclasm, 2 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Baneslayer Angel, 2 Flusterstorm, Counterspell, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Pithing Needle, Containment Priest, Venser, Shaper Savant, Wear Tear, and Hydroblast. He's got a lot of good options. I mean, it's similar to the Teamer matchup last time, right?
Give me that Baneslayer Angel.
Absolutely.
Let me teach him a lesson.
Baneslayer Angel, Red Elemental Blast, and I think that we're going to see him bring in, first of all, Hydroblast for sure, being able to hit Young Pyromancer or Monastery Swiftspear. But I think that Flusterstorm is a very real possibility because he brought it in against Teamer Delver.
Okay.
Once your plan is to bring it in against Teamer Delver, I think you're likely to bring it in against Blue-Red Delver as well.
And those Pyroclasms, I expect to see those two, not to, clear out Young Pyromancer and everything, even though that can happen, but just another removal spell. Just
Absolutely.
A little 1-for-1 action.
Pyroclasm a lot better in this matchup than it is against the Teamer Delver deck because of the ability to hit Pyromancer and Swiftspear instead of missing Nimble Mongoose and Tarmogoyf.
These players are going to shuffle up here for game number 2. We'll be underway in just a moment, but part of the reason that you're going to find Lossett at our Players' Championship, and if things do break correctly, Dylan Donegan, is due to the IQs, the invitational qualifiers that we do have for the Open Series. We know that you can't make it to every single Open Series event that we do have, so if you want to get in that race for the Players' Championship, that's what our IQs are for. You go to them, you can get an exclusive playmat, exclusive dice bag, pin, as well as SCG Premium vouchers as well. Get in touch with your local store owner about running these things. We have the Premiers, we've got really large ones, our Supers, or just regular invitational qualifiers, but you can win all this sweet stuff at them. StarCityGames.com for more information. Trust me, we have players who have qualified or have made a run up the leaderboard. Thanks to this. Kevin Jones is someone I think of for that. Jim Davis, Ross Merriam, and Dylan Donegan right now. Joe Lossett was able to keep his head above water. A West Coast player, that's one of the few ways that you can do it.
Now, keep in mind, part of what made that so miraculous was that Joe kept a 0-land hand. His 5-card hand was Brainstorm, Swords to Plowshares. I think he might have Force of Will, but no land. Unfortunately, he ripped a land on turn 1, but he knew, well, if I go to 4, it's going to be real tough to do anything anyway. At least this 5-card hand is only 1 card away from greatness.
And you can look at his face. He still can't believe it.
Absolutely.
That's an unbelievable win.
Keeping the 0-lander, that's just, it takes a certain amount of panache to keep a 0-lander, bold face.
Oh, he thought about it for a while, though. You saw his head down on the table. He gave it a long thought before he kept that one. He did, and it
Math
worked out.
checks out, though.
Yeah, it worked out.
Uh-oh, now we're going to see what he does with 7.
Well, you can just give the match to Lossett then already, I think. It's a volcanic island to start here for Donegan. He's down to 19, thanks to Misty Rainforest. We'll see how he wants to start things off. Is it a manipulation spell, or is it a creature? perhaps a Gataxian Probe to get a better look at Lossett's hand. We will see. It's going to be a Monastery Swift Spear. And there's an attack for 1. Lossett's going to go down 19. It's a tie game.
Monastery Swift Spear is so much better than Raging Goblin.
It's kind of a joke.
It doesn't have as many tribal interactions, but it's better most of the other ways.
Swift Spear is one of those cards that, oddly enough, just, again, I've said this a couple times, but you can take a look at the spoiler for Khans of Tarkir. You see Siege Rido and Fetch Lands and all these big splashy things, and Offenza. This one just slid right under the radar. This card is amazing. So good.
Yeah, the Monastery Swift Spear is sort of just born to work side by side with Young Pyromancer. The ability to leverage all of your 1-mana spells into additional value. So good in powered formats, everything from Modern all the way up to Vintage. Now Vintage, more of a Young Pyromancer than Swift Spear format, but Modern and Legacy definitely spots where the Swift Spear shines.
Here's Gataxian Probe. After Pyromancer does resolve, so an elemental token's going to come in. Prowess will trigger on the Swift Spear, so that's going to be a 2/3 when it does attack. Now Lossett is considering his options, and he will show the hand. There's a Pyroblast, there a Terminus, a Counterspell, a Brainstorm, a Baneslayer Angel, and a couple of lands in Mountain and Caracas. One thing that's nice here for Joe is he doesn't have to concern himself with Wasteland. Blue-Red Delver goes without that card. Though sometimes they do have Price of Progress, so how aggressively does he want to search for non-basic lands in this matchup? We will see if he runs into a fetch land.
Yeah, my assumption is he's going to be pretty aggressive at looking for non-basics, just because traditionally Blue-Red Delver decks, not big on Wasteland. Not a lot of Wastelands, not a lot of Stifles. Might as well just go with reliable mana.
Another probe here. Trigger that Young Pyromancer, trigger that Monastery Swift Spear, draw another card.
Yeah, this is a real good opening for Dylan. Now, of course, Joe Lossett has access to things like Terminus, and a single Terminus could undo all of Dylan's work.
And he does have a copy of Terminus in his hand and a Brainstorm to be able to put it back, so he can work his way towards that.
He is going to want to wait until he can defend it a little bit, though, because Dylan has access to so many ways to stop the Terminus. Joe has Red Elemental Blast and Counterspell in hand, so the question is, how much time does he have to set things up?
I have a feeling we're going to see a big turn from Donegan next turn. So those creatures are going to get to do something else here. Lossett's draw this turn was a copy of Caracas. He's going to play one, and now he's going to try to resolve a Brainstorm. You saw maybe he didn't want to play the land, preferred maybe just to Brainstorm straight up before playing a land, but Daze is a real concern.
Exactly. And the problem, of course, is that because he played Caracas, he can't use that Red Elemental Blast in his hand.
It's aggressive use of Force of Will going after the Brainstorm, but given the information that Gataxian Probe has provided, knowing that Joe needs to resolve the Brainstorm to put the Terminus back on top of the deck, I kind of like it.
Oh, absolutely, particularly since if he waits, Joe could put the Terminus 2 down, the second card down, so that next turn he can play his Mountain or even an Island and have mana to protect his Terminus. I think that was a smart play from Dylan. It also gets more pressure because of the extra elemental token for Young Pyromancer.
Dylan resolving a Brainstorm now in his main phase, so 3 cards added, 2 cards will be going back. He's happy with his configuration right now. He'll follow this up with a Ponder. So that's another elemental token, another trigger of Prowess. It's going to be a lot of damage this turn.
Yeah, this is effectively putting Joe on a 1-turn clock. If Joe doesn't do something big, he's going to lose next turn.
It's an attack here for 8. Lossett down to 8. Donegan going to pass the turn back. Lossett's looking for a miracle. He did not find one. He found a Vendilion Click. And just like that, we could be headed on to game number 3. This Blue-Red Delver deck at times can be relentless.
Oh, yeah.
Lossett's going to pick up his 2 lands and move on to the 3rd game. And what was a heck of a game number 1 for Joe, the direct opposite, game number 2.
I mean, that was, honestly, let's credit where credit is due. Dylan Donegan, very smart going after the Brainstorm. It's the natural thing is to be like, oh, all I care about is Terminus, I'm just going to wait. Dylan, taking advantage of his understanding of this matchup, knowing, well, right now, Joe Lossett's guard is down. He doesn't have the mana to protect it. I should fight now, not later when he has mana to fight.
Look correct to me, and now we'll be heading on to game number 3 between these 2 players. Again, Dylan Donegan He's looking for a semifinals appearance here this weekend. He is well on his way to doing that. He has virtually locked up the top 8. He's in first place right now. Even if he loses this match, he should be able to draw in the next round, but he wants to keep Joe Lossett out of the top 8. He does not want to play against this matchup. Let's say, for example, in the quarterfinals tomorrow.
Exactly.
Best of 5, no thank you.
No. Remember, Dylan, yes, he wants to win this tournament, but it is really important to win his first round of the top 8, as that is playing for a berth in the Players' Championship by itself.
Game 3, we'll see how things do go here. And Lossett, he's already going to the Players' Championship. We're going to see him in Roanoke next week. He won Season 3 as far as points are concerned, so that's how he qualified there. And we'll be seeing him regardless. And with any luck, we'll be seeing him in the elimination rounds tomorrow as well. This would be his second invitational top 8 this year. He top 8'd our first one during Season 1 when we were in Charlotte.
Yeah, he's definitely no stranger to the SCG Open circuit. Any idea how many top 8s he has total career-wise?
Boy, it's
just zip code, because I mean he's put up some big numbers.
I mean, he's got a couple of wins in Legacy, a couple of wins in Standard. Oddly enough, he has more Standard Open wins than Legacy Open wins. We think of him as a Legacy master, which he is with Miracles. He's having quite a performance here.
So
but
does he have 5 wins?
At least 3. I'd have to get the numbers in front of me.
So 2 and 1.
Yeah,
sure.
from Schroeder or from Nick Miller. But he has at least 3 wins. Invitational top 8 this year. He's headed to the Players' Championship. I'm unsure how many actual top 8s he has, but I imagine quite a few.
Oh, yeah. Impressive play both sides. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, that Game 1 win, that might be a best of SCG moment there. Pretty insane stuff for him to be able to come back and get the job done.
Yeah, exciting too. A lot of good rips.
Yeah.
Needing to draw land on the very first turn just to cast a spell at all.
Yeah.
Needing to blind flip to counterbalance. And finding Terminus the very last possible second.
Yes.
So many exciting moments.
Game number 3, Lossett will be on the play. For him, he's looking for a Sensei's Divine top to get the ball rolling. We'll see if he can find that, as that is really what stirs the drink for this deck. It's the most important card. For Donegan, I imagine he's looking for a start like he just had the previous one. I mean, that was a very good draw from Dylan last game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Some pressure, probe to get some information. He's got brainstorms, he had counter spells, and force of will. Very, very good draw for him. So we'll see what happens here in the 3rd game of our feature match between Donegan and Lossett. Again, Lossett will be on the play. See if he can find a 7-card hand that he's happy with.
It's interesting. It looks like he's got everything but blue mana. Is that a basic plains and a basic mountain?
That's what it looks like. This is one of the few reasons I like Joe having white bordered cards and white bordered lands in his deck, because I can get an easy peek. That's an island.
Oh, it is an island. Okay. So this is just an easy straight up keep.
There's a ponder.
The fact that he has brainstorm and an island.
The legacy combo.
Yeah, the rest of his hand could be like Knight of the Reliquary, Mother of Runes, Mangara, a bunch of other unplayable cards. You'd still keep it if you have Island, Brainstorm. Shuffle him back.
Looks like Joe drew a land for the turn. I think the big question here is, does he have white mana? That may have been a Volcanic Island that he drew, but regardless, he has 2 mana to start things off.
Yeah, I think if he had a Volcanic Island, he would have just let out with his counterbalance.
Yep.
Because even a blind counterbalance is fantastic in this matchup.
As he proved in game number 1.
Definitely.
Not going to sacrifice that Flutter Strand. He's down to 19. He'll search for Volcanic Island. Again, when you're playing against Miracles, you can aggressively search out those non-basics. No punishment for that. Especially when you're playing against Joe. Joe, very rarely the type of player to have Enlightened Tutor or Blood Moon in his 75. It's a young Pyromancer. Joe going to cast a Brainstorm in response. So 3 cards coming here.
Man, it breaks my heart the young Pyromancer isn't rare. It feels like Stoneforge, Mystic, Snapcaster Mage, Tarmogoyf, and Dark Confidant should all be one cycle.
Sure.
Plus young Pyromancer would be an easy rare.
That thing probably should be a rare. It did complete the cycle, though. It was a little... We weren't sure if it would be this good. And, eventually when you see it, it's like, okay, this card's got to be pretty good. It took a little while to find its footing in Legacy and Modern, but it certainly has in both formats. The card is incredible. Let's see what 2 cards Joe wants to put back. Looks like Counterspell will be one of them. That one's going to go the furthest down.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think the big problem here for Joe is that I don't think he has a fetch land. He's going to pass the turn back. So he's going to draw a card. It's a copy of Red Elemental Blast. This is an island.
So now he does have counterbalance, which is going to really disrupt Dylan. But without Sensei's Divining Top, the lock is far from assembled. Dylan, however, with Young Pyromancer, has a lot going on. He's got some pressure for Joe Lossett, and Joe's deck is a little bit vulnerable. And now the clock increases, and he wisely stops the counterbalance.
I had a feeling he might fight over it.
Yeah, even with his Red Elemental Blast winning the fight, the extra token speeds up the clock a fair bit. Now, even if his spells get countered by counterbalance, he'll still get tokens from the Pyromancer.
He'll start by attacking for 3. Lossett's going to go down to 17. And now it's the Sulfuric Vortex.
Love it. Very, very smart. This is his opening. Lossett doesn't actually reveal to counterbalance.
Top card's counterspell. He
Right,
knows what it is.
Yep. Smart.
He's going to have to take 2 here. So long as Donegan, it's his card. He's got to remember the triggers there. There's a Pyroclasm.
Well, that's big. That solves the first problem.
Lossett will pass the turn back with the counterspell at the ready. Donegan will draw. He'll have to take 2 from his Vortex.
So is Lossett actually at 17?
That's the question. That's the question. It looks like he is. It looks like Donegan may have forgotten the initial trigger of a Sulfuric Vortex.
If he forgets one more time, he could actually just lose to his own Sulfuric Vortex.
Yep. Now, it looks like life totals are updated here. So 16-15, he did not forget with the Vortex.
Okay.
Here's a Brainstorm. 3 cards coming. 2 cards will be going back momentarily.
Yeah, he's definitely going to want the counterspell on top for the free counter to hit the Pyromancer. He's probably going to want a Miracle card next, right? Like Entreat the Angels?
I would think so, yeah. Now, the big question is, does he have a second source of white mana? Because...
Yeah, it looks like the only one he has is Karakas.
Yeah.
Karakas is a cruel, cruel mistress.
It's a really good card in this deck. He does have Enduring Click and Venser Shaper Savant. It's just a good card in the format, but sometimes playing 2 of that legendary land can't come back to hurt you. He'll put 2 cards back.
Which means he might just put back Terminus for the option to potentially get rid of the next thing that Donegan puts down.
Donegan, knowing that the coast is clear, is going to Pyroblast there because he knows,
Smart.
I know your top card.
Smart.
Yeah.
Sulfuric Vortex knocks Lossett to 13, 7-turn clock.
Counterspells the draw. Joe reaching for some mana here. He'll play a Relic of Progenitus. Says remove a card, thank you. This is his way of working on Treasure Cruise. Donegan going to take 2. He's down to 14.
Donegan with another Pyromancer.
Wonder if you counter this one.
Now remember, he has a Terminus on top of his deck.
Okay.
Draws, and it is Terminus.
And Firemancer's going to bite the dust.
Lossett at 11.
He'll remove a card with the Relic.
Lossett with Counterspell in hand has a little bit going on, but he needs to find an answer to Sulfuric Vortex quick. Now, he often brings in 1 Wear Tear for just such a purpose. He also has access to Venser, 1 or 2 copies. Unclear how many.
Can't forget about the Hydro Blast, too.
Absolutely.
Joe going to sacrifice the Relic of Progenitus. He'll take 2 more. He's going down to 9. He's trying to find ways to get through his deck, to find a way to get this Vortex off the table. Swords of Plowshares the draw. Let's see what this is going to be. Relic again.
In theory, if he had white mana and a Baneslayer next turn, even though the Baneslayer doesn't gain any life, it puts Dylan under so much pressure that Lossett could actually win the race.
Dylan going to take 2. He's down to 10. Sulfuric Vortex may actually do it all on its own here.
Well, I mean, the Pyromancer hit 1 time.
That's true. Draw a card with Relic. Untap. Put you to 7. Lossett will draw another one. It's an Arid Mesa. He will deploy that.
The problem is, if he uses the Arid Mesa, it shortens the clock by a turn.
That's the second white source of mana, though, for Entreat the Angels. In case he's able to put it back on top of his deck. Donegan's down to 8.
This one's going to be a nail biter.
Does Donegan even have to make a move? He's not playing any spells. I refuse to believe his hand is all lands. Lossett will draw. He's down to 5.
From the looks of it, Dylan's hand has 2 Force of Wills at the least.
Joe's draw was a copy of Terminus.
Do.
Joe is going down to 4.
Looks like he is going to find Tundra. As we mentioned, no fear of Wasteland, given that Donegan is playing blue-red Delver.
Tap a white mana. And Lossett has not played a land yet this turn. Just played an arid base of the previous turn and passed it back. Now he'll play Caracas. Legendary rule, let that one go. 2, 3, 4, 5, and treat for 1. This gives him away.
Yeah, because Dylan will go down to 6 on his turn. Lossett will attack him down to 4. Down to 2, and then Dylan dies on his own upkeep. Did he not Force a Will?
Nope.
He had the Force of Will, right?
Don't have a great look at the grip. I imagine that he might have a Force of Will and a blue card, but he's going to play a Monastery Swift Spear.
Oh, and he has Bolt in hand.
Okay.
And by fighting over it with the Swift Spear in play, he's got him kind of forked.
There's a Lightning Bolt. Trigger the Swift Spear.
Lossett at 1 life versus a Sulfuric Vortex.
Donegan says, go ahead. Joe is going to extend the hand. Dylan Donegan's going to win this match here over Joe Lossett. Blue-red Delver takes down Miracles, and for Donegan, he is 13-2. You can bank on him being your #1 overall seed.
Absolutely. Well played by both players.
Congratulations to this kid.
Great match. Yeah, he knew what he had to do to come into this tournament. Coming in, he knew he needed a top 4 finish. He's been on top.